It is raining in Iowa. The date is the 2nd of November, 1957. A woman is alone in a farmhouse outside Clarion in Wright County. Her husband is away hauling until tomorrow. Her 2 children are asleep upstairs. Something is on her kitchen floor. She will clean its wound with a flour sack towel and a bottle of mirth. She will not telephone anyone. In the morning, 2 men will take it away, and they will not leave their names. That is the account, and it is in no file anywhere. I want to be exact about what this is. The whole thing collapses if I am vague about it now. The Dahlgren account is invented. It is a composite, and I am not presenting it as history. Everything else in this film is real, and I will show the source of each piece as it comes up, so that by the end there is no confusion about which half is which. That's the arrangement. One invented night dropped into a month that actually happened, in a county whose weather I can read to the degree. I started with a count, so that's where this has to start. There's a catalogue of the sightings the United States Air Force investigated and then could not explain. It runs to roughly 2,200 entries drawn out of Blue Book's own files, and for the year 1957, it carries 89 of them. I counted the 89 by month because nobody in this subject seems to have bothered, and the counting took about 10 minutes. January has 2. February has 5. March has 5. April has 2. May has 4. June has 2. July has 8. And until you get to the end of the year, July looks like the busy one. August has 5. September has 3. October has 5. November has 41. 41 out of 89 inside a single 30-day stretch, which is 46% of an entire year's unexplained cases arriving in 1 month and leaving again, because December drops straight back down to 7, and the following January is quiet. Now, there are ordinary reasons a number can do that, and they should be said out loud before anything else. A flap generates newspaper coverage. Newspaper coverage generates reports, and reports generate more reports. So the shape may be partly the press reporting on itself. Investigators were possibly overloaded and closing fewer cases properly. The catalogue is one man's reconstruction of the unknowns rather than the Air Force's own live tally, and it might not be complete. All of that is true, and none of it makes the spike go away. So what was it about that month? I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. What I can say is narrow. The Air Force's own pile of things it could not explain has a shape, and the shape is a spike, and the spike is November of 1957. Something was happening that month. Something was being seen and phoned in and written down and typed onto a card with a number in the corner and a box at the bottom marked unidentified. Something got into the record. What made that month different from the 11 around it? And this film is about a night that didn't. Hold on the 2nd of November. Not the month. The night. At 8:30 in the evening, Central Time, a rocket lifted off a pad in Kazakhstan, carrying a stray dog that had been picked up off the streets of Moscow a few weeks earlier and given the name Laika. Sputnik 2 was the second object our species ever put into orbit, and the first one with a heartbeat inside it. And it went up 29 days after Sputnik 1,
at a moment when the American press had already spent a month telling everybody that the sky above them now had something foreign moving across it. So on the evening of the 2nd of November, 1957, a very large number of Americans were outside in the dark, on purpose, looking up. Newspapers were printing the times. Schools were sending children out to watch. That part isn't atmosphere, and it isn't a theory. It's just what the country was doing that week.
2 hours and 20 minutes after Laika left the ground, 4 miles west of Levelland, Texas, a man's truck engine died, and his headlights died with it. Entry 1263, 10:50 at night. Electromagnetic effects noted in the record. The next night, it happened again, 9 miles east of Levelland, near That is entry 1264, and it carries the same notation. The day after that, there were 2 separate entries logged at White Sands Proving Ground, a few hours apart. And the day after that, there was a radar and visual case at Kirtland Air Force Base. 2 days later, a case was reported at Montville, Ohio. And the catalog entry from Montville carries something most entries do not, which is a column for radioactivity. Then the radar returns start stacking up, and they don't stop. Eglin, Laredo, Whiteman, Harlingen, Robbins, Minot, West Mesa, spread across the country and across the whole back half of the month. None of these were necessarily connected to each other, and the Soviets had nothing to do with any of it. I am noting that they all sit inside the same 30 days, and that those 30 days are the ones I counted. Before going north, it is worth knowing what those 41 cases physically are, because the word file does a lot of quiet work in this subject, and most people have never seen one. A blue book case is a card. Air Technical Intelligence Center Form 329, 1 page, typed. Across the top, there is a case number and a date. Underneath that, there is a location, given to the town and often to the mile. There is a time to the minute. There is a field for the length of the observation, and it is filled in with things like 2 minutes, or 25 minutes, or 1 hour and 40. There is a field for the number of objects. There is a field for the source, which usually says civilian, or military, or both. There is a line for whether photographs exist. And at the bottom of the card, there is a row of boxes, and one of them is marked unidentified, and somebody has to decide whether to put an X in it. That's the whole apparatus. It isn't impressive, and it was never meant to be. It's a clerk's form, and its entire virtue is that once a knight is on one of these, the knight has a number, and it stops being a room. So what does it actually take to get onto that card? It possibly takes less than people imagine, and it certainly takes one thing before anything else. It takes a person deciding to tell somebody. That's the first gate, and it is the only gate that runs on nerve rather than procedure. Everything downstream of it is administrative. Somebody drives to a sheriff, or calls the operator, or walks up to a gate at an airbase. And from that moment, the machine does what machines do.
41 people cleared that gate in November of 1957. How many stood in a kitchen and did not? Now go north about 700 miles. Wright County sits in the flat middle of north-central Iowa. Corn and beans, gravel section roads laid out on the survey grid, a town every 8 miles or so, and Clarion at the center of it as the county seat. There has been a weather station at Clarion since 1944. It was reading on the 2nd of November, 1957, and its numbers are still there, so I pulled them. That day, the high was 51 degrees and the low was 41, and 3/4 of an inch of rain fell. It was a warm night and a wet one, and dark, with the kind of steady rain that covers the sound of a door. I want that on the record, because winter is not in this story, and a lot of tellings would put it there. Look at what the station actually recorded across those 30 days. The month apparently opened mild. The second was 51 and raining. The 11th reached 54, which is the warmest reading of the month. The first snow of that season did not fall until the 18th, 16 days after the night in question. 4.5 inches, with 4.5 more the following day. The real cold arrived on the 22nd, when the low dropped to 2 degrees, and by the 30th it was down to 6. So the month behaved exactly the way an Iowa November behaves. It was mild, then it turned, and once it turned, it stayed turned. On the night this account describes, it was 41 degrees and raining. Nobody's breath was showing. The ground was soft, the yard was mud, and a back door left unlatched would have swung rather than stuck. Why does that matter? Because a fabricated farmhouse story almost always arrives in the snow. Snow is what people picture when they hear Iowa and November, and if this account had come to me with frost on it, I would have stopped reading. It does not have frost on it. It has rain, on a night that really was warm and really was wet, and that is a small thing, and small things are most of what there is here. The account says the back porch was not latched.
The account says she heard nothing. The account says she went out for wood, and it was already inside. She was 34. Her name in this telling is Ruth. Her husband, Emil, was at a sale barn and was not expected home until the following afternoon. There were 2 children asleep at the top of the stairs, 9 and 6. And the radio was on, because on an Iowa farm in 1957, the radio was on more or less permanently, and the one it was tuned to was WHO out of Des Moines at 1040 on the dial. WHO had been a 50,000-watt clear channel station since 1933, which meant that after dark, it reached most of the continent, and it did not go off the air. So the only other voice in that house for the whole of that night was arriving from 100 miles south, and it did not know anything about what was happening in the kitchen. The account says the thing was small. The account says it was hurt. The account says she got a flour sack towel out of the drawer, and the merthiolate and the roll of adhesive tape, and then did what a farm wife in 1957 did with anything bleeding on her floor, which was not to stand there deciding what it was. I have no way to check a single word of that. That is not a weakness in the telling. That's the telling. Here's the part I keep turning over, and it is the reason this account interested me at all. She never picked up the telephone. In rural Wright County in 1957, that telephone was a party line. A party line is one circuit with 5 or 8 or 12 households hanging off it, and when you lift the receiver, you are not in a private room. You are in a room with your neighbors, several of whom are listening as a matter of ordinary routine, because on a farm in 1957, that is partly what the telephone was for. So work out what a call actually cost her. She could not telephone the sheriff without telephoning the county. She could not telephone her sister without telephoning the church. She could not describe what was on her kitchen floor to one person. She could only describe it to everybody at once, permanently, in a community she still had to live in on Sunday.
And she did not do it. She did not call anybody that night. She did not call anybody the next morning either. Is that plausible? I think it is the single most plausible thing in the account. Consider who she was in that county. A tenant farmer's wife, 34, 2 small children, a husband who would be home the next day and would have to go on doing business with every man on that circuit for the rest of his working life. Consider what the story would have done to her.
Consider what it does to a woman in a small farming county in 1957 to be the one who said she had something from the sky bleeding on her linoleum. She would not have been believed. She would have been discussed. The children would have carried it to school on Monday, and it would have followed them for years. So the account has her doing the thing that almost anybody in her position would have done, which is nothing. And then it has her doing it in silence for decades. That's not a dramatic choice. Whoever assembled this composite chose the least exciting available option at the exact point where an invention normally reaches for the most exciting one. Which leaves the question the whole account turns on, and I am going to leave it exactly where I found it. If she told nobody, then how did anybody know? I do not have an answer to that. I am not going to build one. What I will say is that the account contains a silence, that the silence is not explained anywhere inside the account, and that a story invented purely to satisfy an audience would not leave that particular hole open, because it is the first hole a listener falls into. They arrived the next day, in the afternoon, before a meal was back. 2 men. A plain car. No uniform. No badge was shown. No agency was named. No warrant was produced. No receipt was written. They apparently did not raise their voices, and they were not there long. They took it. They took the towel. They took the tape and the bottle off the counter. And they did not give her their names, and nobody wrote down a case number, and no file was opened anywhere that day or on any day after it. Now, I want to be careful here, because this is exactly the point where a story like this one normally overreaches and loses the right to be listened to.
I am not naming an agency. I am not naming a base. I am not naming an officer. The account does not contain those names. I will not invent them. And anybody who hands out those names on a case built like this one is offering something they cannot possibly know. 2 men. A plain car. No names. That is the whole of it. And the thinness is the point, because that is how it would actually look from a kitchen window. I have been treating this account gently, so let me stop and treat it the other way for a minute, because that is the only way anybody should be handling it. What is wrong with it? Start with the obvious. There is one witness, and she is alone. Isn't that convenient? A husband away overnight, 2 children asleep, no neighbor, no second pair of eyes, and a rain heavy enough to explain why nobody heard a thing. If you were building a story that could not be checked, wouldn't you build it exactly like that? Then the object leaves. Everything physical goes into a car and drives off, which means there's nothing to test, nothing to photograph, and nothing to weigh. Isn't that convenient too? And then there's the shape of it. A gentle creature, a kind woman, a wound, a bandage. That's a folk. That story is older than aviation, and it turns up in every century that has anything to be frightened of. And the fact that it moves us is a reason for suspicion rather than a reason for belief. So how much of this is left standing? The honest answer is that the account survives none of that. It cannot. There's no test it could pass, because there is nothing left to test. What I can tell you is which parts of this film do survive, and they are the parts I counted myself. 89, 41, the 2nd of November, 51 degrees and 3/4 of an inch of rain, and no Iowa entry in the whole of 1957. Those hold. The kitchen doesn't. I would rather say that plainly here than let anybody walk out of this thinking I proved something. So I went and looked for her.
I searched the catalog for Iowa. Every year, every entry, all the way through. Iowa is in there repeatedly. Des Moines in June of 1940.
Sioux City in January of 1951. Winterset in January of 1955, with 2 Iowa Air National Guard pilots on it. Dubuque in March of 1960. Sioux City again in November of 1961. Waugh and Wapello in the spring of 1967. Across 20 years, Iowa turns up over and over. There is no Iowa entry in 1957. There is nothing from Wright County in any year at all. There is nothing anywhere north of Texas on the 2nd of November. The nearest Iowa case in time is Winterset, and Winterset is 2 years and 10 months earlier. So where is she? Where is the card with her township typed on it? I want to be careful about what that does and does not mean, because an absence is the easiest thing in this subject to abuse. It does not mean anything happened. It does not corroborate one word of the Dahlgren account. An absence proves nothing at all, and I am not going to dress it up as evidence. What it means is narrower, and it is the only honest thing available. The account claims the night was never filed, and when you go to the file, it is not there. That's consistency, not proof. And consistency is more than most stories of this kind manage before the second reel. 41 cases went into the record that month. 41 lines that anybody can pull up and read tonight. Every one of them carries a date, a place, a time, a duration, and a witness count, typed by somebody whose job it was to type it. Hers carries none of that, because hers is not there. There's one more thing in the account, and then I'm finished. Once in 1950. Once later, the account is not precise about when. The same 2 men, or men who seemed very like them. The same
That is somebody checking that a story is still where they left it. Who does that? And for how long? And on whose instruction? I am not telling anybody that happened. I am saying that is what the account describes, and that of everything in it, that is the detail which reads least like an invention, because it is easily the least satisfying one. An invented story gives you the answer on the second visit. A man comes back and finally explains himself, or threatens her, or hands over a document. This one has them ask the same questions and leave. I started on a number, and I want to finish on it. 89 cases in 1957, 41 of them in November. 46% of a year inside 30 days. 5 times the next busiest month. That number is real. I counted it off the catalog myself, and anybody can go and count it again tonight, and they will get 89 and 41. The Dahlgren farm is not in that count. The Dahlgren farm is invented, and I said so in the first minute, and I am saying it again now. So what's the film for? It's for the shape of the gap. 41 households that month picked up a telephone, or drove into town to a sheriff, or told a man at an airbase, and got a card with a number in the corner. We know their times to the minute.
We know how long they stood there watching. Every single one of them had a way to say it out loud. How many did not? How many were on a party line? How many were alone in a house with 2 children asleep upstairs and a husband away until tomorrow, and worked out in about 4 seconds what saying it out loud was going to cost? I do not know. Nobody counted that. That's the one column the record doesn't have.